Hello everyone, my name is Inder Singh and I'm going to be explaining you 5 key mistakes which people make before even attempting the IELTS examination. Now there are a lot of mistakes which normally people make before or going for the examination, but these are the first 5 ones which I usually encounter when people are coming to me with doubts. Now the very first one which I'm going to be explaining you is that people usually have this very common fallacy that this is going to be exactly the kind of examination what they have been facing before in their schooling. The most important thing what you need to understand about this examination is that this examination is not based upon your knowledge. This examination, they just test your skill set. It has nothing to do with what your knowledge is about English. It's a proficiency test. And the second one is that you, before going for the examination, should meet a professional who's testing your writing skills, your speaking skills. Now, why am I saying this is because when they are correcting your English, they will be able to analyze your mistakes even better. This is completely a favorable decision, yes, because they are known to be judicious. And the most important thing about this is that they are going to be providing you with a certain benchmark, a place or a level where you stand from where you need to start working. Suppose you get a score of 6 band, you know that you have to fulfill a criteria of 7.5 band for clearing whatever your requirement is. Now the most important thing about this is whenever you require some bands like this, or whenever any certain level of understanding you require about any module, a professional will be the most important person who's going to help you out with this. This is something what we need to understand. This is usually 9 out of 10 people would never go for. I'm serious. 9 out of 10 people would never go and seek a kind of a help from any of the professionals. The reason being is they believe that whatever they are learning or whatever they are getting the information or they're getting the correction from any random person is more than sufficient for helping them understand where they are standing. But most of the situation, that's not right. It's not going to be helpful at a certain level, of course. This is something what I always recommend all of my students, in fact all of my candidates, those who are going for any examination, even if it's IELTS. Yes, of course, indeed. The third one and the most important one is that there is no proper rule that you will be going for practicing question papers. Now, there are a lot of questions which are coming up with this, is that they come up to me and they ask me, sir, we have already been practicing so many question papers and yet we have not been able to achieve the desired bands. It's very obvious, yes, a lot of people do that. But something what we need to understand is that practicing question papers is not always going to ameliorate the situation. It's not. The reason being is most of the people, they practice the question papers thinking that it's going to be helpful to them, but they fail to realize one thing that's very important. What have you learned from that practice paper is the most important key what you need to understand, something which will be helping you in the future. If you are able to understand where you landed up in that practice paper, in the very next practice paper where are you going to be landing up is something which you need to understand, which you should be able to analyze yourself. This is something which is really important. What you learn from the practice sessions is something which is going to be getting you across the other line, the other half, which is going to be helping you clear the IELTS examination. This is something which is really important. The questions are never repeated. Yes, you may know the pattern, you may know the way the question papers are the format is being followed, yes, but the questions are not repeated. Many people think that by practicing just the question papers, they're going to land up to their desired bands. No, that's not exactly the situation. That's not exactly the case. Now, understanding the word limit is one of the most important thing, according to me, in the IELTS examination. Now, if you attempting the IELTS examination, one thing you must be able to understand is that there is plethora of questions. There are a lot of questions. It's standardized 40 questions for reading and listening. But the most important thing what you need to understand is that you need to contribute a little bit of more time for understanding the question, because each question carries 1 mark. So each question is very variable. Now, understanding the word limit is most important, because whenever you are taking up a little bit more extra time for a certain amount of questions, you are going to be left with even less for the questions which are impending. That this is also going to be one of the challenges while you're attempting the IELTS examination, something which you should be able to understand. Practicing the word limit, practicing the time taken for attempting any module for any set of questions is really important, because there are a lot of cases, believe me, there are a lot of cases where the people are not even able to complete their whole question paper. The reason being is they are not practicing their speed, they are not practicing where they stand whenever they're going for a practice session. Understanding the time limit is really important. Another important part what the people should be able to understand is that vocabulary or the lexical resource is a very important part of the IELTS examination. Whenever you are speaking, if you're using some set of words, you use it with complete certitude. Now, if you are not confident in any of the words and you're using it, then most likely you're going to be using it in a wrong sentence. Now, one thing which I always tell my students is that for any number of question papers, try within at least 1 month before, take one word each, just one word per day, and by the end of the month you're going to land up with 30 words, which are more than sufficient for the IELTS examination. 30 sufficient words which are going to be helping you raise the quality or the level of vocabulary which you are using or which you are going to be using in the examination. 30 words. Now, this is just for the beginning. There's one more tip what I would really recommend to my student, which I usually do, is that I always tell them to start with synonyms. Now, the synonyms are a great way of starting up or boosting your vocabulary, but you need to understand this part, that all of the synonyms do not mean the same. There are a lot of differences even in the synonyms. Using the correct synonym at the right place is something which the IELTS will be testing. I hope that all of the information which I have been telling you from so long is intelligible. You are able to understand it, and it's going to be really helpful if you're focusing upon these 5 mistakes which usually everybody makes while they are going for attempting the IELTS examination. Have a nice day.